in the last Senate, persistently and consistently reminded the National Assembly that Article 110(3) was not an option to observe. I want to salute my distinguished learned colleagues who spared their time to go to court and fight pro bono. And Mr. Speaker, I want to assure the House that should there be an appeal preferred by the National Assembly, yours truly here will join the team, equally pro bono. Mr. Speaker, this ruling tells Kenyans that the Constitution is a living document, that the Constitution is the last line of defense for weak individuals and perceived weak institutions. It will always restore their position and their hope and their trust. Mr. Speaker, we had reached a level at one point where this House was being treated like a subordinate to the National Assembly. Many times, bills were passed at the National Assembly, and I remember this House adjourning to discuss those issues, particularly miscellaneous amendment bills, the omnibus bills, where, Mr. Speaker, they will lump in issues on agriculture, issues on health, issues on water, issues on everything concerning counties, and pass the bills and take to the President for assent. We did say here, Mr. Speaker, many times, and I want to urge that going forward, we must develop a template that whenever a bill is taken to the President for assent, he must see a concurrent certificate from both speakers of both houses, that there's a concurrent certificate signed by the Speaker of the Senate and the Speaker of the National Assembly. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the President, acting in good faith, is now got a rotten egg on his face. He's been put in a very embarrassing situation because of people failing to advise him. We did, Mr. Speaker, even tell the Attorney General, we called him to several meetings and told him whenever a bill is taken to the President for assent, remind the state that this bill had a concurrence and observance of Article 110(3). It never happened. Now that we are where we are, Mr. Speaker, I want also urge caution that the way forward should never be for you as our Speaker to be called to sign a retrospective concurrence to bills that have been declared a nullity. So that, Mr. Speaker, those bills, you know, impunity in this country, James, sometimes takes very dangerous routes. And we must caution ourselves constantly that anybody who will say, let's have a retrospective concurrence, will never go that route. Those bills, however well-meaning, they must go through the mill again. Publication, first reading, second reading, third reading, with a prerequisite concurrence from both speakers. Mr. Speaker, so that I leave time for other members to speak, this House is still under threat. This House is still in a cage. The best thing that we can talk about BBI on the Senate is that nobody has attempted to interfere with Article 110(3) in BBI. So that remains our shield and defender, that we will always have Article 110(3) and this judgment to our defense. But I want to urge, Mr. Speaker, Senator Faria thinks that I'm alerting them. Even if they go the wrong way, we'll go to court again. Yes, the courts are there. They have made a landmark ruling. I want to urge, Mr. Speaker, that going forward, we must also, in the BBI process, defend this House. We cannot be harmonizing and strengthening a bicameral structure that doesn't respect bicameralism, including but not limited to, Mr. Speaker, the power being given to the National Assembly to veto the DORA, almost the most important legislation that comes to this House. So today, Mr. Speaker, as we speak on this, we salute the High Court, the 3 judges, Senator, Senior Counsel, my distinguished learned Senior Orengo, for leading the team, and everybody else who participated in one way or another, including those who gave the moral support by walking all the way from here to the High Court at Kilimani for us to file the case. Intimidations may come, Mr. Speaker. Stand firm, because history is never written by cowards. History is written by strong, firm people. And history, as one great writer said, is written by the winners. We have won, we are writing history, and those who will follow will remember that there was a second Senate in the second Constitution of Kenya that stood to be counted. Mr. Speaker, this House will have no other defender but itself. So senators, whether you'll be here or not, I have heard my colleagues like my distinguished nephew Sakaja, who used to throw stones at this House in the last Parliament, now come and say we now realize how important this House is and how it must be defended at all costs. And we are ready to stand firm and to defend this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Langat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me this opportunity actually to say something on this. First, I would like to thank ourselves in this particular House, Mr. Speaker, that I can remember very well when you led all of us marching to the Milimani law courts in unity and in unison. It was a great day, Mr. Speaker, that I want to remind every one of us that our unity was mocked even by the governors who went ahead actually to go in bed with the executive to water down what we were doing. But today we are so happy that our unity has earned this particular country and this particular House in a great respect, Mr. Speaker. So I want to say our unity was strength, as normally it is said that unity, when united we stand and divided we fall. So our unity is our power in this particular House. This also reminds us when the majority of us stood, the Team Kenya, when we stood, something went to our counties. Our standing, our unity also touched the president to the point that he actually added what we were struggling for, 53 billion. That came also as a result of our unity, Mr. Speaker. And I want to also say that I want to thank the legal team that was leading this particular noble job. Congratulations, Senator Orengo. Congratulations, Senator Mutula. Congratulations, my neighbor from Nyamira, Senator Omogeni. You have really proven that the clan that you come from is that particular clan of courageous people, heroes. So we want to congratulate these great gentlemen. And I want to say, we must continue fighting and standing for this particular Senate, because the Senate is the anger of the counties. I want to tell the senators, the strength of the counties is not in the money, amount of money that that they are apportioned to them. They can be given even 60% of the money. But without the strength of the Senate, the structure of oversight to be strengthened, that money will go and enrich the governors, that money will go and be misused and abused. So I would like to urge every one of us that on matters that are touching this particular Senate, we must continue standing together so that we actually protect devolution in this particular country. So even when it comes to matters to do with the PPI, ourselves, we must sometimes have our own kamugunji and be able to dissect and see the benefit of the Senate, because the Senate is actually the power of the counties. So I want to say, let us continue standing together In everything, let us not betray ourselves. Let us stand together when it comes to matters touching this particular house. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I'm so happy, and I want to encourage all of us that we continue the same. I don't want to stop, Mr. Speaker, without also saying something about the judiciary. And I want to thank them because of being independent. They would have been influenced to delay this particular process for years, but they stood firm and actually respect their independence, and actually this particular process has earned today a lot of fruits. So I want to thank the judiciary, I want to thank every one of us, and I want to say we continue standing united. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wako.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Let me first of all congratulate my colleagues, my leader of minority, James Aguri Orengo, my fellow senior, Mr. Kongo Mogeni, the son of his father, my junior, Mutula Kilonzo, for successfully pursuing this case before the court. I'm quite sure it is a formidable argument that went from them, from their mouth, and submissions that were made that the court was able to make this sterling judgment. I also congratulate the court for this sterling judgment. I also congratulate the petitioners, you included, for the courage you took to take this matter to court. Mr. Speaker, sir, we did a similar thing during the first term. At that time, I was in the chair and therefore led the delegation. We went to court and we argued and got a very good judgment. In fact, it was the first judgment, advisory opinion, that emanated from the Supreme Court, which had been set up and constituted under this new constitution. Mr. Speaker, sir, if that ruling the letter and spirit of that ruling had been followed from that time up to now, it would not have been necessary for us to pursue this case in court. But sadly, the letter and spirit of that ruling was never followed. In spite, from what I knew, in spite of the good faith on the part of the Senate. And what was the good faith? The good faith was that we took it, that from then onwards, the Speaker of the National Assembly will do what he must do. But he never did, and he continued with impunity the way it is. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have to take that into account when we consider the way forward. If the ruling during the last term was not, the letter and spirit of it was not followed up to now, and if the good faith on the part of the Senate was not honored at all, then the way forward must be a way forward which includes some changes in our laws and in our standing orders. And that's why I completely agree. In fact, I had suggested it before with what Moses Tangula, Senator, has stated. We must now insist that we must have certificates. In fact, it is 2 certificates, Mr. Speaker, sir. Under Article 110.3, Article 110.3 of the Constitution starts with the word before. Before any bill comes before the respective houses, the 2 speakers must agree. Therefore, we would want a certificate at that stage that you have met and you have considered that the bill is either a bill that concerns county or it is not. Before any bill is tabled, before the National Assembly, any bill, that certificate must be there in both houses. Before any bill is tabled here, that certificate must be there. And if we do start from there, Mr. Speaker, sir, I do believe that we would have achieved our purpose in ensuring that the Senate is part of the bicameral legislature and under our Constitution. So the certificate there, and then at the conclusion of the whole procedure, before the matter goes to the President, another certificate, the concurrent certificate that Moses Rectangular talked about. That would be necessary. We must see how we can put that into not just our standing orders, but even into law and so on about these matters. And I believe in that way, the President will be protected, will be very firmly protected from anything that goes on. Now, you know, for him to be say that he signed, gave consent to bills which were not bills at all, to me it's very embarrassing. And he was giving that assent when I believe the speakers are standing there, the Attorney General, the Solicitor General, blah, 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 are standing there. The speakers, I don't know what has happened now, because during my day, the President never gave assent to the bill before I gave a certification that the bill is properly before him and has properly gone through the procedures in Parliament. And all it is now required to amend that bill in the light of the new Constitution was to add word that it has gone through both houses of Parliament. So the Attorney General also has a very important role to play as he gives that certification that has been properly passed through Parliament. You cannot give it without the speakers having also signed that it has properly gone before Parliament. And Parliament, of course, means both houses. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, if the law remains as it is, and if it is properly implemented, then we would have solved our problem. Of course, it would have been very good if it was clearly stated in the Constitution that the Senate has a role to play in all the bills. And I can tell you my opinion was, and remains my opinion, that Senate should consider all the bills, and that bills that touch on counties should originate in the Senate, and all other bills should originate in the National Assembly. That's my position. It has been my position. It was my position, and it remains my position up to this time that I'm speaking. So I hope you get the message. Mr. Speaker, sir, there's also, on the BBI process, all I would say is that I thank Okongo Omogeni, Omugusi, for representing us very well in Naivasha yesterday. Various caucuses were asked to give their opinions on the matter before the plenary, and I believe, and I heard him say, after of course consultations, that although the bill says harmonize the processes in the bicameral Parliament, he did say that the bill does not have that, and therefore it's necessary that that aspect of the matter be gone into. I think I heard him say that. So I hope that going forward, what the chair of the legal committee has stated will prevail. One small point before, which I had forgotten. I think before the speaker meets the speaker of the other side to find out whether or not this bill touches on the county, I think the committee, the legal committee, should have gone into it and appropriately advised the Speaker on the matter. So again, I think our procedures, I hope, will be able to take that into account. Overall, I congratulate you all. The Speaker has told us that it may go to High Court. I think the team can handle that. But if it goes to the Supreme Court, you can rest assured that the Attorney General Emeritus will be part of that team. So that it's known that this matter is now serious to attract the attention of the Attorney General Emeritus to appear before the court. I thank you. I thank you.
For gender balance, Senator Kasanga, then...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity also to add my voice to this. I want to as well congratulate you and thank you, Mr. Speaker, for having led us through this process and demonstrating the leadership that was required at that point in time. I also want to thank my colleagues, led by our leader, Senior Counsel James Orengo, and all the others who participated, Senior Counsel Mogeni, and all the others. We want to thank you very much for this momentous judgment that you fought for, and indeed fighting for Senate. You are our heroes, and you will never be forgotten for this milestone that you have led this House towards. Mr. Speaker, in my experience of legislating and making legislation, I have seen how it is very emotive. It requires a lot of lobbying, a lot of balancing of emotions of the various stakeholders as well as Kenyans at large, such that by the time you introduce a bill to a House, the amount of work and time that has been put in is so significant that when, Mr. Speaker, when these bills are declared money bills and they're not able to proceed in the next House, even after having been cleared by yourself, it not only robs us of the time that we have spent and the money that we have spent, but most importantly, it robs the hopes of the Kenyans who participated in that legislative making. So, Mr. Speaker, I have to thank the Judiciary for this ruling. And I have to say that the hopes of Kenyans will be reinstated restored with this ruling because of all the bills that are sitting somewhere, pending and waiting for this clearance to go through. So, Mr. Speaker, we look forward, I personally look forward to your next communication on the way forward. I can tell you from where I sit, a lot of Kenyans are waiting to see and hear what is going to happen next to those bills. So we look forward to that, Mr. Speaker, and thank you so much for that communication. And just to speak a little on the BBI process, and just to touch on something that the former leader of majority had mentioned, I've seen he has left here. I personally look forward to having women in this House, Mr. Speaker. I personally look forward to a time when the future women who will come here will all vote as equally as the male who are coming to this House in the next Parliament, Mr. Speaker. And my good friend, Senator Murkomen, should not worry if he's called the male senator of Elgeyo Marakwet, because there will be a female senator of Elgeyo Marakwet, and they are all senators on the same breath, Mr. Speaker. So I really look forward to that. And in as much as I agree with my fellow colleagues, yes, let us be vigilant. Let us not lose sight of the gains of this House in the 2010 Constitution, but let us celebrate the steps that we are taking ahead. It's for posterity, it is for this country, it's for the future, and we will be dealing with the 2/3 gender principle, Mr. Speaker, in this case. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, before I sit, your earlier communication on COVID should not go unnoticed by this House. You have told members that let us be vigilant, let us be careful, let us follow protocols. And Mr. Speaker, you know a lot of us are the ones who are causing more and more Kenyans to get more infected because we're going out there and addressing Kenyans in crowds, and we are not demanding that they focus and they keep to the protocols that have been given. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you for that communication as well. And members, please, COVID is on the rise, and a lot of Kenyans are going to get affected. Our counties are not yet ready. Most of them do not even have the requisite protocols that are required to save Kenyans. And so let us play our part and lead from the front. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I see still a lot of interest, so I'll now limit it to about 3 minutes. 5. No, it's going to 4. Yeah? Okay, 5 minutes, Senator Cherargei. If you can wind up in less than 5, that would be good.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I want to congratulate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this opportunity. From the onset, I want to congratulate the team led by Senator James Orengo, Senior Counsel, Senator Okongo Mugeni, and Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. for the job well done. I want also to congratulate your office for facilitating Dr. Okello, Mercy Tanji, and other individuals also who assisted us in ensuring the process was smooth. On 2 or 3 occasions, when I was the chair legal, I had opportunity of attending with Senator Orengo and Senator Mutula in Milimani. And I can attest to the fact that they really worked hard and committed to this. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, sir, that this is embarrassing to the president. And I hope in future, as colleagues have said, that we need to have a concurrent certificate, because you can imagine in some jurisdictions, this is an impeachable ground where such 24 legislations can be nullified by the High Court because of non-concurrence from both houses. It is so disappointing. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, I think even as we go into the BBI, among other issues on the role of the Senate, we as a Senate, we must stand together, we must work together to ensure that Senate is placed in its rightful position. And I hope our colleagues will stand with this so that we can achieve a lot as we work together, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank also the Justice Legal Affairs Committee. Most of the legal team was there, and we worked very hard to ensure that the pleadings were there. We provided the necessary leadership, Senator Faki, Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., Senior Senator James Orengo, Senator Fatuma Dulo, Senator Susan Kiiga, and yours truly. We worked very hard. And I remember at some point, Mr. Speaker, when you are not available, we were a bit worried. But because of your guidance and leadership, we took a work of justice towards Milimani. And Senator Msuruve also really tried. I know there are many people who normally don't work, but that day they work into work of justice. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge our colleagues from the National Assembly. I think this matter has been settled now. They should now use ADR. They should even use this opportunity, because in engaging and many other stakeholders, Mr. Speaker, so that as a Senate we are able to move forward, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when the leadership team will be called, or in any instances, through your leadership, we will need to make a lot of serious noise so that the Senate can be recognized. We don't have a problem where they will be elected 2 senators from the county to achieve gender, but we should not use Senate as a dumping ground for gender parity issues. We want a Senate that is strong. We want women, and my advice to women is that you should push that Senate gets more power so that you have more say in issues that are cross-cutting, that issues that affect the ordinary wananchi, Mr. Speaker.
What's your point of intervention? Senator Nyamunga?
Mr. Speaker, I am very disappointed by the statement that has been made by
Take your seat, Senator Cherargei.
For Nandi, by saying that if we are looking for gender parity, we are looking for a place where we want to dump our women. By listing women to be part and parcel of this house, according to him, that is a dumping ground. Can he come clear on that, Mr. Speaker?
Senator Cherargei, be careful. You are beginning to tread on very dangerous grounds.
Mr. Speaker, let me paraphrase. I would advise women of this country, inside here and outside there, that they should make sure where they are being taken, they have a direct say on the lives of women, people living with disability, and all Kenyans. Can I finish, Mr. Speaker? I need to be protected.
What's your point of order, Senator Dulo?
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Speaker, I think Senator Cherargei is trending on a wrong footing. Because if he's trying to advise women of this country where he cannot be able to advise, he's going to put himself in trouble. Is he in order, Mr. Speaker, to tell women of this country that they are the ones to choose whether to come to the Senate or not? Whether we have a strong Senate or not is the work of the senators in this House. We are the ones in the office. It's not the role of the women in this House and outside there. So is it in order to actually put that responsibility on women of this country? I thank you.
Senator Cherargei, I cautioned you that you are wading in very dangerous areas and it will derail what you want to say and your time. So be careful.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it is within my right to give an opinion. But I have noted a concern of women senators in this House, and we'll try in future to factor in. Mr. Speaker, I think let us work to make our Senate more stronger for the benefit of all Kenyans and guard devolution in this republic. I congratulate the High Court, and we can underscore the importance of having an independent judiciary in this country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr.
Thank you, Speaker. I will be brief. Speaker, one, if Speaker, you had any doubt at the time we wanted you to work with us, that this was precedent setting, I hope your fears have now been allayed. Because for the future of this country, your name will forever be in a precedent called the Speaker of the Senate versus National Assembly and others. They will read your name. So if there's one legacy, and Mr. Speaker, we have had a rough time here with you, you know that. But there's one legacy is this, and we thank you for leading the team. Secondly, Senator James Orengo is really appreciated, and Senior Counsel Omogeni. I think we should tell him when he's listening right here that his forthrightness and the work that he has done in terms of not only this petition, but constitutional making generally. And that's the reason, Mr. Speaker, I'm actually sitting very comfortably here, because I know even in the current discussion, when Senator Orengo is there, I am sure, and from the discussions we have had even yesterday, that all of us should not worry about what is going to happen in future, because I believe we will have a foothold even in the document that is being prepared. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, Senator Senator Omogeni mentioned the words in the advisory opinion of a good speaker. And Senator Wetangula has attributed this to you. A good speaker will find something about public finance security that concerns counties. I'm proposing, Speaker, and I mentioned this at SBC, send a message to the National Assembly by appointing a mediation committee of strong senators, so that they know, Mr. Speaker, we are serious about this. So that when you sit in a meeting, they don't bulldoze you. If they bulldoze you, they will not bulldoze the rest of the senators. I agree with the sentiments that, Mr. Speaker, once you concur, find a way where we can get that information. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, although we are all concerned about our jurisdiction, and in Standing Order number 1 about President's judicial stare decisis, Mr. Speaker, one good thing. And Mr. Speaker, when you write your book, and I encourage you to write one, when you write your book, Mr. Speaker, the High Court has said an advisory opinion is not advice, is legally binding on all courts. So we are encouraging the National Assembly to try their luck, but Mr. Speaker, once this ruling has been enforced in the manner that we have received the declarations, Mr. Speaker, we should rest assured, but welcome the offer by Senator Wetangula and Senator Amos Wako to rob with all of us, and we go and deal with anybody who wants to challenge that ruling. Lastly, we have also encouraged, Mr. Speaker, that the decree is issued. We serve the Speaker, so that the discretion, and this is important, Mr. Speaker, these members have been so frustrated about the bills that have come here. I have resisted the temptation. Some of the senators here, Mr. Speaker, have gone to lobby. I know that, with the budget office. I am aware, because one member of the budget office told me, you didn't come to us. I am glad, Mr. Speaker, that nobody in this House will go and sit with the budget office about their bills being considered in the National Assembly. Because that was violation of this Constitution, and that was violation and what we call befouling our role on legislation in the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, I thank you, and the offer that you made at SBC, we will hold you to it. Thank you.
Senator Wambua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to also add my voice to your communication. Mr. Speaker, as the other senators before me have said, I want to take this opportunity to thank you, to thank the leadership of the Senate, both the majority and the minority, and indeed all the senators for moving to court when they did to get a determination on these bills that were sent to without the input of the Senate. The Speaker, I also want to thank specifically the lawyers led by our leader of Minority Senior Counsel, Senator Jim Orengo, Senior Counsel Mogeni, and my very good friend and neighbor, Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. Not forgetting, Mr. Speaker, the Secretariat, led by our clerk here, through the legal office, for a job really well done. Mr. Speaker, the same spirit that was applied in fighting for the real role of the Senate in legislation should also be applied, Mr. Speaker, in ensuring that we defend the institution of the Senate of the Republic of Kenya against all manner, Mr. Speaker, of assault. Mr. Speaker, in your communication, you mentioned that we will have a role and an important role to play in the BBI process. And, Mr. Speaker, it must go on record that the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, in this process that is a national process, must be seen to be playing its rightful role. It shall be remembered, Mr. Speaker, that, and it has been said here, that the decision of the court, in as far as these 24 bills, Mr. Speaker, is concerned, has placed the Senate of the Republic of Kenya where it rightfully belongs. We should never, Mr. Speaker, as senators, allow any other process to take us off that mark. We must fight, Mr. Speaker, as leaders, as representatives of our counties, as defenders and champions of devolution, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that when it comes to the vetting of public and state officers, Mr. Speaker, we play our role there. Mr. Speaker, Article 110(3) of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, is not a decoration of constitutional provisions. The requirement for concurrence between the two speakers of the two houses in determining whether a bill concerns counties or it doesn't must be followed to the letter. Mr. Speaker, there is a matter that my colleagues have not touched on. I want to touch on this matter, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, is it fair game that somebody can mislead the president 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 24 times to assent to bills, Mr. Speaker, that are unconstitutional, and we just sit back and that is okay? Mr. Speaker, consequences must ensue. It cannot be, Mr. Speaker, business as usual that the President of the Republic of Kenya has been misled 24 times on unconstitutional bills, and people have done that, just walk scot-free. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, on the matter of COVID, you have told us, Mr. Speaker, to be a lot more vigilant, Mr. Speaker. I've just seen this afternoon that a school in Teso, 52 students have tested positive and 6 teachers. Mr. Speaker, something needs to be done. We have relaxed. We are behaving as though we are living in normal times, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether this is the time now to reconstitute the ad hoc committee on COVID or what we need to do. But Mr. Speaker, some action needs to be taken. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to join my colleagues. First, in congratulating ourselves for taking the walk to the High Court. Some of us had never walked across Uhuru Highway, but we did because of your leadership, Mr. Speaker. I want to also congratulate the team that led to this very successful judgment. I want to thank the Senator Orengo, who was the leader of the team, Senator Mogeni, the Senator Mutula Jr., and all those who contributed in one way or the other, because this is a landmark ruling. Mr. Speaker, this is not just for the Senate, it is for the country. It is putting things right so that there is order in the nation. When Article 110.3 was articulated, it was not meant to undermine anybody. It was not meant to create any competition between one speaker and the other speaker, but it was supposed to put order in the way we do things. Mr. Speaker, we should not have had any negative competition between the two houses because both houses are literally working for the same people. So it was even wrong for the other house to imagine that they can seek signatures and approvals from endorsements from the president when actually they have not articulated. I like the way the judgment was done, that even at the point of saying, oh, this is going to be costly, the judge has said you should have thought about the costs before you offended the law. So I think this is bringing us back to a very orderly way of doing things between the two houses, and I think we should take it from here, Mr. Speaker. It is very clear that we have had statements that don't really befit negative competition, including that of saying even Senate was supposed to have been closed. How do you close Senate when you want to do devolution? We know very well that the function of Senate, or the role of Senate, is basically on the interests of the counties and the county governments. If that is not if Senate is not there, there is no way we can deal with the interests of our counties. Mr. Speaker, the BBI is here. 35% is going to be given to the counties. If that money is going to be put in, it is even more important now than ever that the Senate is strengthened so that it can do its representative and oversight role, particularly this oversight, Mr. Speaker, where we've been talking about funding for oversight that has really never come through. There is no way that the 5% of the resources of this country can go into hands that cannot be scrutinized. We must see transparency in expenditure. We must see accountability in expenditure. We must be able to make everybody account, so that we are not just coming here to read the reports of the Auditor General and looking at post-mortem reports 5 years after the governor has retired. We really need to be up to date, and it's very important that Senate is now put in its own position. And I think this is one thing else also that we must deal with when we are dealing with BBI, to make sure that Senate is in the rightful position to be able to do the oversight of the funding, which is going to be quite substantive. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support the statement that you have made this afternoon. Thank you.
Senator Cheriot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this one is for the history books. This one has made me proud to be a senator. I'm so happy for the day and the resolve and the decision that we took as a House on that day to first of all reaffirm our commitment to Article 3 of our Constitution, that we shall defend our Constitution at every instance. This is one such instance, Mr. Speaker, where as a House we resolved that it is more important to be united as a House of Senate than to be divided along the usual parochial party lines that we are so used to, yet on most occasions, Mr. Speaker, end up being to the detriment of this House. On this particular issue, Mr. Speaker, we spoke with one voice, and as a House we can learn. There are so many things that are good for Kenya, that are good for devolution, that are good for the Senate, but cannot be achieved until we have the kind of resoluteness that we had on this matter and the unity that we showcased to the country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to celebrate and join the rest of my colleagues in appreciating the works that was done by our colleague senators, the senior counsels that have been mentioned, members of staff who serve in our litigation and compliance department, who worked hard to ensure that Senate and the Constitution of Kenya is defended, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm really proud of our colleagues, and I appreciate the work that they were able to do in ensuring that these 23 laws that are not in compliance with the demands of our Constitution, as per the dictates of Article 110(3), Madam Speaker, are nullified until such a time, and only until such a time that the National Assembly will come back to its senses, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, if this is not an indictment of a full House, if this is not an indictment on the leadership of a country that signed these laws, because, Madam Speaker, I do not buy the political narrative that I see being peddled here this afternoon, that the executive, that the president wasn't properly briefed and did not know that this law did not meet the demands of our Constitution, Madam Speaker. I am sure that they knew. But because we have come to a place where we believe that the culture of this country is such that anything that the Senate says can be ignored, they chose to ignore. But long live our judiciary, Madam Speaker. Long live the judges that made this very wise decision and ensured that from now going forth, if you read this ruling, Madam Speaker, is that it puts a stays even on legislation that is active before both houses that have not met the demands of Article 110(3) of our Constitution. Madam Speaker, if that is not great for this House, I do not know what else is. This is perhaps one of the most important rulings that devolution has secured in the last 10 years of its existence since this current Constitution was promulgated, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, therefore, I join my colleagues in congratulating the team and reminding them that let us remain vigilant. Let us be watchful. Let us not forget, Madam Speaker, that 2 days before this matter was argued before the High Court, that a decision had already been made to withdraw. In fact, I can now confidently report to this House, Madam Speaker, that I was made aware by people within the precincts of the Parliament. I will not say if it is staff or if it is members who love devolution, who spoke to me in confidence and told me, Senator, if you guys do not stand up and agree that this case be withdrawn, then you cast the day that you brought, that you served in this House, because it shall no longer be business as usual. And we stood firm as a House, and that is why we are here to celebrate. Finally, Madam Speaker, there's an issue that I had my colleague, Senator Sylvia Kasanga, mention. And I feel that we need to canvass it properly, because I feel our women senators, women colleague senators sometimes miss the gist of this debate. It's not that we are opposed to having a male or a female senator elected in a county. Our argument is against the watering down of the position of a senator. You can be a man or a female or a woman, but that position must be respected. If you are not saying that you can have a male and a female MCA, a male and a female member of National Assembly, a male or a female governor and president for that case, why the Senate? You're weakening the institution and the stature of the Senate, and that is what we are opposed to. My good friend,
Senator Mbogo George Ochila Yako.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my neighbor Senator Kasanga is trying to incite me to respond to my very good friend, the brother of Moses Aaron. Madam Speaker, since I have limited time, the ladies can defend themselves. I'll not defend them on this one. I will just talk about what is before us. Now, Madam Speaker, I want to congratulate all of us. Madam Speaker, all of us stood firm. Madam Speaker, all of us were focused. And I want to say that without standing firm and without staying focused, we would not have instructed the Speaker to go to court. It was every member of this House, the focus and commitment, that instructed the Speaker and moved the Speaker to lodge this matter in court. It is the commitment and the determination of each and every one of us that instructed the Senior Counsel James Orengo, together with
Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me this chance also to contribute in regard to this historical moment, the decision made by the High Court in regard to the many bills which were passed unconstitutionally. Madam Speaker, the only thing I would add in congratulation to the Speaker is that I wish that instead of just naming the party as the Speaker of the Senate, we should have had the name of Kenneth Lusaka, Speaker of the Senate, so that in reference to this case, his name would be cited now and again. But I want to assure the House about this particular case, and in doing so, I want probably first begin by congratulating Senator Okongo Mugeni, Senator Mutula Kilonzo, and the other councils who are from the legal secretariat, Dr. Kello and Mercy Danji, and the office of the clerk in enabling us do this work. But I also must thank the former chair, Mr. Cheragai. I think a lot of people would forget that the basis for this case was actually established during his chairmanship, and all through he stood really firm. And the first appearance in court and subsequent appearances, the chairman was there, and Senator Okongo Mugeni continued to do the same work as chair of the legal committee and also as part of the legal team in the case. Now, this case, I think one must remember that the law actually in regard to the power of the Senate had long been declared during the Mutunga leadership in the Supreme Court. This is not the first time that the powers of the Senate are being spelled out by the judiciary. Indeed, in the case that went to the Supreme Court, when we took the National Assembly to the Supreme Court, we had asked for various legislation to be declared unconstitutional. But the Supreme Court declined to do so, but they warned the National Assembly that if they did not follow the procedure set out in the Constitution, the courts would not hesitate to declare such law as being unconstitutional. The Maraga Court also has made pronouncements on the basis of the law as stated by this particular bench in regard to Article 110, sub-Article 3 of the Constitution. And going with the doctrine of precedent and stare decisis, this is now the law of the land. And I know that there may be plans to appeal against this ruling, but that will not go anywhere until they reach the Supreme Court, because the basis of this decision is the advisory opinion number 2 of the year 2014, I think, if not 2013. So I think we are in good territory, and this case is precedent setting, and I think in future we cannot hesitate going to the courts again, as we have demonstrated whenever there's such injustice. Madam Speaker, in the year 1942, Winston Churchill made a speech in the House of Commons and said, "I have not become the King's first minister in order to preside over the liquidation of the British Empire." At that time, Churchill really believed the British Empire, where the sun never set, will never be liquidated. But subsequently, it was indeed liquidated. Happily for Churchill, the crown on the jewel on the crown, which was India, became independent after Churchill had ceased to be prime minister. Of course, later on in the 50s, he again became the prime minister. But I'm saying this, Madam Speaker, that as a senator, and the reason that I offered my services in this case is that I believe that the Senate must continue to play its constitutional role, that role must not be emasculated, and that the Senate, without the Senate, the parliamentary system as designed by the Constitution will come to naught. Any attempt to dissolve this Senate or to emasculate its authority is undermining the authority of the Constitution of Kenya as by law established. And I truly believe that so long as we continue to have speakers who are determined, as Speaker Lusaka demonstrated, that Article 110, Sub-Article 3, still is part of the Constitution, the role of this Senate will continue to be the same, because the power and the authority to determine whether bills can come to this Parliament, to this Senate, has not been taken away and is not likely to be taken away. Now, the only thing that I wanted to say in conclusion, and I'm glad Senator Wako is here, sometimes in historical moments, until we watch out very well, you know, we can enter, as I've said before in this house, in lamentations. There was a time when we were trying to create a new constitutional order, or how to create the position of prime minister so that we could have the grand coalition. There was a lot of chest thumping, but I'm glad that when the two principals, asked Wako and myself to go and work on a draft of the new constitutional bill that was going to make it possible to have a grand coalition government. We did it knowing that the country was in a position where the country didn't want any less. And therefore, I want to promise this Senate that I myself have actually itemized 3 issues in this draft bill that we must look at very carefully. And I think the women have been very strategic, and everything to do with the women in meeting the gender balance. I think they have played their role so well that nobody wants to touch that anymore. And I'm sure that it will continue to be so, because I think they were being very, very, very strategic. Senator Mwaura, I want to congratulate you, because you've done some strategic thinking. You laid out a strategy, and I think the question of those living with disability, I think that's another question which has been resolved, and nothing is going to change it. I want to encourage senators that the last word has not been written. Article 217, Article 218, I think it's something that we need to look at, because the authority of the Senate may be taken away if you don't look out properly on these 2 articles. There is an additional article which is giving the cabinet minister powers to suspend funding going to counties. Again, if you don't watch out that very well, the powers of the Senate would have been taken away very drastically. But I think together we can make sure that in this process, I'm sorry, Madam Speaker, I thought that somebody was in danger at the other end of the House. Yeah, but he has not been given the chance. But I want to say that so long as we continue to work together.
Sorry, there is a point of order from Senator Musuruve.
Madam Honorable Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I want to ask, is it really in order for Minority Speaker to fail to acknowledge also my role in Naivasha when we actually presented the issue together with Senator Mwaura before the party leaders kindly with regard to issues of disability?
Unfortunately, my eyes were trailed towards Mwaura. That's the only reason. But Senator Musuruve, I cannot forget to thank you also, because I think you spoke about it so forcefully. So I'm just saying that, Madam Speaker, probably we need to organize a quiet Kamkunji, because we still don't have a referendum. Sorry. Can you give me 1 minute, Madam Speaker?
I will give you 1 minute because you are the leader of the team.
Yes. Now, I still think that, you know, we have a report which has been made to the President and to the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, but we still don't have a referendum bill, because that only happens when you have the final bill with 1 million signatures being taken to the Electoral Commission. I think we should quietly, you know, retire into a Kamkunji like we do many times and talk about this issue in a more strategic manner to ensure that not all is lost insofar as the powers and authority of the Senate is concerned. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Masayo Stewart Mwachiru. Senator Masayo.
Shukran, Mr. Speaker. Shukran, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, pia mimi nataka kuchangia taarifa hii iliyosomwa na Speaker wetu kwa kuhusika na ile kesi iliyokuwa kule kotini. Mr. Speaker, kitu cha kwanza nataka kuwashukuru wote wale maseneta ambao ni mawakili waliweza kuwakilisha katika hii kesi. Hususan wakili James Orego na wakili Omogeni na vile vile Mutula Junior na mawakili wengine ambao waliweza kuchangia. La muhimu katika hii ni kwamba kesi hii wakati tukipeleka kotini, sote tulikuwa tumekubaliana kwamba kulikuwa na dhulma ilikuwa imefanywa ambao hatukuipendelea katika zile sheria zote 24 zilizopitishwa bila kuhusishwa bunge la Senate wala Speaker wetu kuwa katika ile mahojiano kama hayo. Mr. Speaker, kipengele katika katiba cha 110 sheria ya 3 iko wazi kabisa ya kwamba ikiwa kabla ya bunge letu kukubaliana na bill, ni lazima maspika wetu wote wawili wa bunge la kitaifa na bunge la Senate waweze kukaa na kujadiliana kuhusikana na ile bill, wakiona kama ni special ama wakiona kama ni ya kawaida, wanaweza kuona itaanza ile bill itaanza namna gani. Lakini jambo la kusikitisha ni kwamba bunge la kitaifa kila siku limekuwa likipuuza, na hivi sasa ni kwamba imebainika wazi ya kwamba bunge la Senate pia liko na uwezo katika ile sheria inayosema kwamba hakuna bili inaweza kupitishwa bila bunge la Senate kuhusishwa. Mr. Speaker, ule uwerevu alikuwa akiufanya, Waswahili husema mwerevu hajinyoi. Hata ukawa mwerevu namna gani, hauwezi ukachukua makasi ukajinyoa. Mr. Speaker, sheria kama hii ya kuzembea ama kutotii
amri katika katiba, ndio sisi tunasema ya kwamba mahakama imefanya jambo la muhimu kuweza kurekebisha na kuiweka sawa. Vile vile kuweza kuwapatia kongole wale majaji wali
the senior counsel who worked with the legal team and the legal team that have always served us and Senate professionally. Madam Speaker, we have, you know, this is historic moment in our lives and in the history of our nation. Nobody expected things to come out the way they came out. When we walked that day to the court, to Milimani Court, for some of us, it was a very new experience because personally, I have never participated in any demonstration, and that was my first. So to walk from here to Milimani, of course I enjoy walking, but to demand for something, that was my first time. And again, to get into court, that was my first time. So I was like wondering, okay, but I thank God that I got that good experience. Madam Speaker, the court nullified the 23 bills passed by National Assembly without Senate input. If you look at what is happening between Senate and the National Assembly, it is a kind of competition. And many of our bills have died in National Assembly. And I think there is need for the leadership to sit together, to reason together, so that we can work together to grow our nation, but not to finish, each other, not to reduce, Senate strength or do anything that will harm and reduce our responsibility. Madam Speaker, by doing what we did, we have supported our Constitution, which is under threat. The 2010 Constitution that has given many of us opportunities even to be here, that has helped Kenyans to see that we are really progressing, is under big threat. But by this, we have protected our Constitution, and I think we should continue doing that. Madam Speaker, the petition was allowed and the cross petition dismissed with no condition. When I was going through that, there are three things that I picked. The first one, that the 23 bills were nullified. The second one is this. And then the third one is again at the conclusion, where it says, where it says that where it says that, sorry, I will come back to that. But as I'm saying, Madam Speaker, we must guard our Constitution, and that is what the Senate has done. And important to note is that National Assembly has been given, that is the third one I wanted to say, that National Assembly has been given 9 months to regularize the 23 laws that have been passed. That really encouraged me that, this, within 9 months, all this must have been regularized. So I want to congratulate all the senators who walked all the way from here to Milimani. Some people are really struggling to walk, but we made history, and today we are proud of what we did. We should thank all the people who participated and also who did that job that has really made us proud. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Harkura Kodana.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support or comment on the Speaker's communication regarding the recent court case. Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank first all of us because the decision of this Senate to go to court on this issue. Also, I'd like to thank our able senior counsel, Senator Orengo, Senator Mogani, and lawyer Senator Mutula, for representing the Senate pro bono and making sure that we ensure that our position in the Constitution is not eroded through backdoor by the National Assembly trying to claw away our legislation-making mandate by introducing within their own standing orders interpretation of what it means, how to determine whether a bill concerns county or not. And I thank the judges for coming out very clearly that you cannot use your standing orders to circumvent a provision in the Constitution. Madam Speaker, also in the last Senate, when we had issues of what the Senate can participate in terms of legislation, when the Division of Revenue bill became an issue, we went to the Supreme Court to seek an opinion on that, advisory opinion, which clearly stated that almost all matters concern county. So there was already that precedence that almost all matters concern county. But unfortunately, the National Assembly has been using the same interpretation of law to make sure that some bills don't come to this House. Matters not concerning county, when it was advised that almost all matters concern county, it now became money bills. To the extent that the last time I had, there was a mediation between the two houses in determining what are these money bills. And the National Assembly went as far as saying that any legislation which creates a position which attracts remuneration is a money bill. Basically, then you cannot improve on legislation, because when you have to improve on service delivery, sometimes it requires creating an office. We have even created the office of a county attorney. Maybe that in the interpretation of the National Assembly will mean a money bill, because that is already a position which requires to be filled and which requires remuneration, at least. So we have to now make use of this ruling. We have to make sure that all those legislations, over 20 of them, which bypass this House, have to come back and go through the legislation process, right from publication all through. If it require mediation, so be it. Then we can now sit down and come up with a legislation which is in the interest of the citizen of this country, but not legislation which are passed mischievously because somebody is trying to create some mischief somewhere. So, Madam Speaker, thank you for giving this opportunity, and also I'll urge that we keep on making sure that we are vigilant, and especially in this time of BBI, we should make use of this, because my understanding is whenever there is a review of a constitution or any law, is to improve the existing institutions, to strengthen them, not to weaken them as we are seeing now. There are many issues which have been raised, and I thank my colleagues in the Pastoralist Parliamentary Group, and the points they came up with are the minimums which have to be addressed for us to get that improvement, for us to get that enhancement of our rights in this country, so that issues which you have been considering marginalization all this time are sorted out and not aggravated further in things like when you talk of the equalization fund, a fund which has a sunset clause of 20 years already, 10 years into its period, into its life, and it has not been implemented. We need to make sure that those constitutional provisions actually attain the impact Kenyans had in mind. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mwaura Isaac.
Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kuchangia katika mada hii, na niseme kwamba ni jambo ambalo linapiga upato swala zima la nguvu ya bunge la seneti, hususan uamuzi huu ambao umeweza kutupilia mbali ama kuweka shaka ama dosari sheria 23 ambazo zimeweza kupasishwa pasipo kuhusishwa jumba hili la mazungumzo na majadiliano. Kwa nini ninasema ninashabikia uamuzi huu? Ni kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, mwanzo tunafaa kukumbuka kwamba hatuna mabunge mawili. Tuna bunge moja la kitaifa ambalo lina nyumba mbili. Na nyumba hii ya bunge la Seneti sio tu nyumba ya kushughulikia masuala ya ugatuzi. Ni kuhakikisha kwamba masuala ya ugatuzi yanawiana na sera ya kitaifa. Na mara nyingi tunaona kwamba kuna kule kutokuelewa kwa nia ya bunge hili, hususan na mkono wa serikali wa utekelezaji. Mheshimiwa Spika, watu wengi hawajaweza kutathmini maudhui ya uamuzi huu. Ni kumaanisha kwamba jukumu la kuonyesha kwamba sheria yoyote ama mswada wote hauhusiani na masuala ya serikali gatuzi ama county, jukumu hilo sasa sio la bunge la Seneti. Jukumu hilo lipo katika bunge la kitaifa. Kwa sababu kama vile ambavyo koti limeweza kuamua, utawezaje kusema kwamba kuna sheria ambazo zinatekelezwa katika serikali ya kitaifa pasipo na maeneo ya county? Haiwezekani, kwa sababu ukiangalia nchi hii, hata hii Nairobi ipo ni county. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi wenyewe kama bunge la Seneti ningependa kusema kongole, hongera, kwa sababu hatukuweza kushtushwa. Hata ilikuwa wakati juzi tu unaona kama kuna midahalo kwamba tutupilie kesi mbali kwa sababu tunaweza kuwa na udhamini wa miswada kati ya maseneta na wabunge wa bunge la kitaifa. Lakini hiyo sio suluhu. Mimi mwenyewe nimeweza kudhamini zaidi ya miswada 5 katika bunge hili. Kazi nyingi tu ambayo tunafanya kama wabunge wa bunge la Seneti, lakini miswada hii hata iwe inaweza kuwasaidia Wakenya, inaweza kufungua masoko yetu yawe huria, mara nyingi miswada hii haiwezi kupasishwa katika bunge la kitaifa, ilmuradi kwamba miswada hii inahusisha mambo ya kifedha. Mheshimiwa Spika, nafikiri ni jambo ambalo tunafaa kuliangalia kwa undani. Tuweze kuona kwamba sisi ambao tupo hapa, swala hili zima lisiweze kutumiwa kuweza kudhoofisha nguvu za bunge la Seneti katika mchakato wa BBI. Tuchukue hii nafasi tuseme kwamba tufuatilie na huu uamuzi, kwa sababu nimeona katika vyombo vya habari kwamba bunge la kitaifa sasa limeweza kusema kwamba litakata rufaa uamuzi huu. Na tuhakikishe kwamba kama vile tumetoka kule Naivasha kwamba vipengele hususan ambavyo vinahusikana na ugavi wa fedha kati ya serikali ya kitaifa na serikali gatuzi zote, kwamba isiwe kwamba sasa hivi hatuna ushawishi. Kwa sababu, kwa nini nasema hivyo? Ukiangalia vile ambavyo dhana zipo katika sheria zilizopendekezwa ama mswada ama rasimu iliyopendekezwa ya kubadilisha katiba, ni kwamba sasa hatutangojea mhasibu mkuu wa serikali aweze kufanya yale mahesabu na bunge la kitaifa kupasisha. Hapo kutakuwa na kasheshe, ni pesa zipi ambazo zitakuwa 35%. Kwa sababu naona muda umeyoyoma, niseme naunga mkono, hongera, kongore kwa wale ambao walikuwa wametusimamia, na hususan viongozi wa bunge la Seneti, vile ambao tuliandamana kama tukakwenda kule milimani, hatukuchoka. Wazee kama kina mzee Ongeri, nilikuwa naona kwa picha, nimemshika mkono mzee Amos wako, na tulikuwa kwamba tukiona hata kama tutaonekana kama tutadhalilishwa, lakini tukasimama na Kenya. Na nafikiri bunge la Seneti ni bunge la kuwaleta Wakenya kwa pamoja. Tuwe na malumbano, tuwe na sintofahamu, lakini mwishowe tutakuwa na uwiano. Asante.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Kangata.
Let me take this opportunity to congratulate each and every senator and also our colleagues who led us in this matter by offering their services, legal services, to champion this matter in court on pro bono basis. Let me also take this opportunity to congratulate the court for properly looking at the law, ensuring that they are guided by the fidelity to the law, law as it is, not as it ought to be. Madam Speaker, in jurisprudence, that is the philosophy of law, we have several approaches to law. There are those who look law as it is, the so-called positivists, and there are those who look at law as it ought to be, the so-called natural lawyers. Madam Speaker, when you look at the philosophy underpinning this good decision, you see that jurisprudence of positivism being imbued in this finding. And for me, I think it is positive. It expands our jurisprudence and also our knowledge of law. It ensures the Senate occupies the rightful place in the entire constitutional architecture of this Republic of Kenya. Madam Speaker, even without straining your mind, when you look at an act of parliament, it is called an act of parliament, and parliaments comprises of both the Senate and also the National Assembly. And therefore, it goes without saying, ideally, almost all forms of statutes should be subjected to concurrence, both by the National Assembly and by the Senate. Madam Speaker, I am aware that our colleagues will be filing an appeal to the High Court, to the Court of Appeal. I urge this House to be vigilant. We should to go and fight it out in the Court of Appeal so that we maintain this major piece of decision that has been rendered by the High Court. Madam Speaker, let me now dwell on the issue concerning BBI. How BBI is going to remedy some of the lacunas that exist currently in our Constitution. Madam Speaker, there has been some senators and other members of public who have been saying BBI is proposing to whittle down the powers of the Senate, to make Senate as an inferior house vis-a-vis the National Assembly. Yes, of course, we would have wanted more, but strictly speaking, BBI did not really touch on Article 96 of the Constitution, which is the one that grants or establishes the jurisdiction of a Senate. And therefore, the power of the Senate to legislate, to oversight, to make laws concerning counties, to represent counties, which is provided for under Article 96, has not been touched. Be that as it may, what we should be fighting for, and I belong to that school of thought, is to seek an enhanced role of the Senate going forward. We may need to retweak, those of us who support BBI, two things. One, we consider granting the Senate the power to vet various officials in the executive, for the simple reason that under BBI, we are proposing to domicile the executive in the National Assembly. And therefore, you cannot have ministers sitting in the National Assembly, but they are going to be vetted by their colleagues, members in the National Assembly. So if we want fairness, if we want objective vetting, allow executive to sit in the National Assembly, but the vetting be done by the Senate, because no senator will be sitting in the executive. Madam Speaker, the other thing we may need to consider granting the Senate is the power to initiate any form of bill. Currently, the so-called money bills cannot be initiated at the Senate level. Madam Speaker, as a result, several bills have gone to the National Assembly. They have been torpedoed. They have been deemed as being money bill, and therefore, we cannot be able to proceed with them. I think to address that lacuna, we need to grant Senate the power to initiate any form of bill, whether money bill or otherwise. But on the larger scheme of things, when you look at the BBI, let me tell the nation, BBI has very positive provisions. Mr. Speaker, or Madam Speaker, I want to bring to the attention of Kenyans, why did we propose the so-called unexpanded executive as in the BBI? Several reasons. Kenya is an ethnically divided society. Constitutional design for ethnically divided societies differs with societies that are not ethnically divided. Mr. Speaker, sir, I seek your leave. You had me about 5 minutes. I finish this point, please.
Nafikiri kwa sababu unawakilisha kiranja walio wengi kwamba unawakilisha upande wa walio wengi na kupatia dakika zingine 3 tafadhali.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. Ethnically divided societies, their constitutional design tends to differ with societies that are not ethnically divided. Mr. Speaker, sir, I refer an example of Belgium, Switzerland, Northern Ireland, where you have a major division between the so-called Protestants and the Catholics. They usually have a democracy that is called constitutional democracy. It has been explained very well by a writer called Arend Ligipert in his book or article called Constitutional Design for Divided Societies that was published way back in 1994 by the Journal of Democracy. He has also written another book called Patterns of Democracy. And when you read his ideas, he argues that in ethnically divided society, you need to promote what we call consensus democracy. It has certain characteristics. Number one, it has what we call an expanded executive or a grand coalition. Number two, it has what we call a mutual veto. And number three, it has what we call proportional representation electoral system. And therefore, when you look at Switzerland, when you look at Belgium, when you look at Northern Ireland, and even other countries in Asia like Lebanon, where you have a division of the so-called Shia Muslim, Sunni Muslim, the Christians, you will see that democracy works very well by ensuring representation of each and every segmented group in that society in the executive, Mr. Speaker, sir. And therefore, BBI is proposing to establish that democracy in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, sir, this form of democracy is not new in Kenya at all. Between the year 2008 and 2007, Kenya was a constitutional democracy, strictly speaking. We inserted Section 15A in the 1969 Constitution to establish the position of a Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, sir. And that government, it has been evaluated as one of the most inclusive governments that Kenya has had since independence. Mr. Speaker, sir, the drafters of the Constitution of 2010 thought they can remedy that problem of ethnic divisions in two ways. Number one, they came up with devolution. And number two, they established what we call centripetalism. That is, electoral rules that are geared to give incentives to politicians to come up with coalitions that are quite large, that they can accommodate everyone. And therefore, we provided for
Asante sana kiranja walio wengi. Umezungumza vizuri sana kwa fasaha kama mhadhiri wa chuo kikuu masuala ya sheria. Nafikiri na serikali ni jambo ambalo ni nzuri zaidi. Sasa hivi nampa fursa hii Senator Gertrude Musuruve ambaye tumeshirikiana naye sana kuhakikisha kwamba haki za watu wenye ulemavu zimeweza kurudishwa katika ripoti ya BBI. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to give a comment on the statement by the Speaker of the Senate. And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, indeed it was really encouraging and a win situation to see that all senators were standing in solidarity and walking to Milimani. I remember that time, Honorable Speaker, I was just wondering, you know, in my mind, how I was going to walk to Milimani because of my disability. But somehow I found myself there, and it was very good that even my fellow senators were patient with me as I went up the rooftop of the vehicle. And I want to say that that demonstrated that actually, if we work together as a Senate, we are able to achieve, whatever we want, and that unity of purpose is good. And even though I'm talking about unity of purpose, Honorable Speaker, I should not be misconstrued that when we stand in solidarity against something that is noble, then it is a good cause. No, I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that yes, indeed, Senate is an upper house, and Article 109 states clearly that when it comes to legislative powers, how to exercise, it is very clear how it should be done, constitutionally. And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that I was really excited when we went to Naivasha, and it was a really good moment where even the party leaders were there. We saw the Honorable Right Raila Amolo Odinga there.
Lakini simuoni kama yupo. Kwa hiyo tuna Senator...
Mr. Speaker, sir, I am present.
Oh, pole. Nafikiri nilikuangalia kuna mahali ambapo unakaa kila wakati. Samahani.
Asante, Bwana Speaker. I know I've already breached the standing orders because I intend to proceed in English. Mr. Speaker, first of all is to congratulate every member of this Senate. We are great when we work together. When we first walked to the Supreme Court to seek an advisory on the role of Senate on the division of revenue and legislation affecting counties, we came out victorious and we came out stronger. When we walked to Milimani, to the High Court, to seek the opinion of the court on legislation that has been passed without the consent of Senate, we've emerged victorious, and we are stronger today. Mr. Speaker, I know that the other place or the other house has got a right to appeal, but these are some of the salient issues that we must try to avoid. One house of parliament suing the other is the equivalent of a husband and wife engaged in endless litigation. The nation looks at parliament as one entity. The fact that one is Senate and the other is the National Assembly, to many members of society and members of the public, they don't give a damn about it. All they require is for parliament to work in harmony, a yin and yang kind of situation, so that this parliament can deliver on the aspirations of the people of Kenya. And Mr. Speaker, I want to urge that instead of pursuing endless litigation in the courts of law, we must find a formula for parliament to sit down and give effect to Article 110(3) of the Constitution, which is couched in mandatory terms. The problem in this country is not the absence of laws. The problem in this country is the spirit and behavior of persons who are in positions of authority. We lack the spirit of constitutionalism, and that has further been shown in this particular matter. Mr. Speaker, there are those who think that the Senate is being weakened. My view is different. In the proposals in the BBI, 35% of resources will be allocated to county governments. That means that the scope of Senate's supervision and oversight over public finances has shifted from 15 to 35%. If with 35% of national revenues and the Supreme Court advisory and the High Court ruling, Mr. Speaker, this house is going to be the upper house. You do not have to write it in the Constitution that the Senate is the upper house. Look at two examples, Mr. Speaker. In Australia, the Senate, yes, is designated as an upper house, represents the states, and is a house of review. But the government sits in the other chamber, and yet the Australian Senate has been able to assert itself. Look at our neighbors down south, in South Africa. You've got the equivalent of a Senate, which is called the Council of Provinces. Even though it is defined as an upper house, it does not behave as such, because the Council of Provinces in South Africa has premiers, has got people who are elected from regional assemblies to sit in it. You do not need even that explicit description in the Constitution. That should not be a deal breaker. That should not be a showstopper. We cannot, as Senate, say that we are not going to support the BBI because the Senate is not designated as an upper house. I know many men in this chamber, Mr. Speaker, who are designated as husbands at home, but they are not any better than the wives in their homes. So power does not have to be written on your forehead. Mr. Speaker, let us seize the moment. And if the government is going to be sitting in that other house, this is a house that will put a brake on all the unconstitutional and illegal legislative affairs that will come from that other house. You can imagine if security laws were to come to the Senate after having processed in the National Assembly. So let us be courageous I am so happy that in this fourth revolution, the focus is now on economic prosperity. Mr. Speaker, I am excited that in the BBI, we have put issues like a digital infrastructure, sustainable agriculture, and sustainable economic development as economic principles. Whoever is going to run this country with the new or the amended constitution must ensure that the conversation moves around regions, the conversation moves around hustlers and others. The conversation is about prosperity, because it is only in a prosperous society that our young people, our women, and all segments of the economy, all segments of society will have an opportunity and will feel proud to be part of a nation called Kenya. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we must also review our parliamentary budget office that renders contradictory opinions on money bills in this parliament. That needs to be fixed because it's part of the problem. I support and I congratulate the legal team and the entire House for this wonderful development.
Asante sana, umejieleza kwa ufasaha mwingi zaidi. Kama tungalikuwa na mawaziri hapa, ungalikuwa waziri butu wa fedha nafikiri. Unajieleza vizuri sana. Seneta wa kutoka kule mama yetu wa kina mama, Seneta Alice Milgo.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this chance to also speak to this very important issue. First of all, let me take this opportunity to really congratulate our Speaker, together with all the senators, for leading us to do our work that I now call signature work that enabled us to really stamp the authority of the powers of the Senate. Secondly, let me thank our senior counsel, Senator Orengo, Senator Omogeni, and Senator Murkomen, and together with the Chair Committee for our job well done. I must say this is indeed an historic time, particularly bearing in mind that up to 23 bills have been set aside. But I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that this is not lost. I think we are ready to reprocess some of the bills. I was able to see, to look at some of the bills that touches on education now. As an education chair, I've already identified one that we can still reprocess. I read through, and there were some amendments that could still be added into those bills. And I think we can be able to take up these bills and as soon as possible be able to allow them to pass as well, because actually these 23 bills were very important bills, speaking to very many issues, even including Uduma number and very many other important issues touching the people of this country. Mr. Speaker, I think this ruling has restated to all and sundry that Kenya has a bicameral parliament, despite the fact that the National Assembly has been trying to actually look down upon the Senate. I think this is high time that they should be able to note that the National Assembly as well as the Senate are actually people's representative, and in any case, all of us actually carry out complementary roles, and each house should be recognized or given the recognition it deserves. Unfortunately, in most cases, we go ahead and conduct, or rather carry out wars, fight one another, wars that are actually not necessary. It is unfortunate that as we speak right now, the president was able to assent to 23 bills, and in this case, putting him in a very awkward position. And I support my colleagues in actually proposing that come the future, before any bill is assented to, at least something, maybe a certificate for that matter, to show that these bills have been processed and has passed through the two houses, so that the head of state cannot, in this case, be embarrassed as it is right now, or so that we have what we are calling a smart approach to issues come the future. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we have had to, out of this, we have had to waste a lot of time. I even remember there are bills that normally go to mediation. And those bills, if they have originated from the Senate, it abnormally takes a long time, even in forming a committee only. We have a number of bills that are awaiting formation of mediation committee, And because the bill has originated from the Senate, it takes a long time even for the National Assembly to provide to send their membership. And even when their membership are here, they always want to be chairs to ensure that they stamp their authority, and even to reject many of our bills, even away from calling them money bills all the time. Mr. Speaker, right now, because we are in the mood of PPI, the PPI proposal limit shall be passed. It is going to send so much money to the counties, 35%, and even 5% to the wards. I think this is high time that then the Senate's Oversight Authority and legislation should be strengthened as an upper house, so that while the 2010 Constitution is termed as the most progressive the world over, let this PPI, if it shall be passed, to not only be a constitution that brought on board issues of inclusivity, but then that which ensure that there is a restoration of institutions such as the Senate, so that all the institutions can now work to ensure that there is no conflicts of interest, to ensure that money, or rather, there is value for money, even to our people, particularly when it comes to even issues of oversight, so that the Senate is not neglected. I'm sure if the Senate...
Asante sana. Hoja ifuatayo. Senator Rose Nyamunga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Just to add my voice to the same statement that was made by the Speaker concerning the ruling of the High Court, concerning the issues that we had presented there. Mr. Speaker, it has taken a long time, but at the end of it all, we can see, we can see that the ruling of the High Court has given life to this House. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank all the senior counsels and the rest of all the senators who participated in this court. It is a joint effort, and we should thank all of us. It is a win for the Senate, a win for our Speaker, who I know it was very difficult for him to lead that work to the High Court in Milimani. But he however, did it, and we have now seen the results of that sacrifice that the senators made. Mr. Speaker, I have been disturbed in a very big way by the behavior of members of parliament. I think as a people, or as members of parliament, both houses, and more so the National Assembly, it is a very big complex that we suffer from. I don't know whether it is inferiority complex, superiority complex, whatever it is. It's a big problem to the extent that we divide ourselves. And some people think they are more Kenyans than others, or one house is superior to the others. The reason why we are here, Mr. Speaker, is to give service to our people, to make laws for our people, to represent them, to make sure that we give them the best for the opportunity that they have given us to serve in the two houses. But it should not be a contest of who is more superior, who is bigger, and who is smaller. If we are making any laws, Mr. Speaker, we don't make it for ourselves, we don't make it for individuals, but we should make it for prosperity, for the future of this nation. Right now, we as a Senate, we are going through some struggles. And if we have gone ahead, for example, we are served in this house, we should make sure that we iron out most of the problems that the senators that will be coming behind us will find it a little bit better and easier. So, Mr. Speaker, this superiority complex, we should bring it to an end, and we should know that the cardinal responsibility that we have is the people of Kenya. And about BBI, for me, I support BBI, not for any reason, but for the fact that when you were doing the constitution in 2010, it was very clear that there was a percentage that was not right. Time has come. 10 years is not a short time. If you look at the mature democracies like United States, I think they have adjusted their constitution almost to 27 times. So 10 years is not a short time. It's long enough for us to know where we have weaknesses and how we can strengthen our constitution. So by BBI being made available for us, it is time for us to make sure that we correct where we can correct, we make Kenya better, and we make gains. We should not make losses by BBI. BBI should correct where there were weaknesses, and we strengthen the institution of the constitution of this country. So, Mr. Speaker, this idea of money bill, it doesn't work well for members of parliament. For example, I have a very good bill on the county resource development. And this is a very important bill that would help most governors to get more resources by developing the resources that they have within their localities. But now, when I was supposed just to present it, the issue of money bill comes in. So you have to donate that bill to the National Assembly. And they may not execute it the way I would have wanted to execute it. They may not have achieved what I would have wanted to achieve because it's purely for the county governments. But the fact that it's a money bill now takes it away from the Senate to the National Assembly. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the members and all of us for the win that we had. Even as we go to the Court of Appeal, let it be, but we believe that justice will be upheld and we will still get what is rightfully for the Senate. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Asante sana kwa sababu ya vile ambavyo umechangia masuala kuhusu miswada ya fedha. Sasa hivi tuende kwa hoja ifuatayo.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Senator Milgo? Is Senator Milgo ama ni? Hi. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the Senate today, Tuesday, 4th November 2020. 1, the annual county government budget implementation review report for financial year 2019-2020. 2, the 2020 budget review and outlook paper for the financial year 2021-2022 and medium-term budget. 3, sessional paper number 2 of 2020 on the proposed veterinary policy, and 4th, sessional paper number 3 of 2020 on the proposed livestock policy. Thank you.
Hoja ifuatayo.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Abdullahi. Senator Daktari.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to move to give notice of motion, parking charges in public institutions offering essential services. Aware that many urban areas and towns in Kenya lack designated car parking areas as a result of imbalance between parking supply and demand, mainly due to ineffective land use planning and miscalculation of space requirements, thereby leading to exorbitant parking fees. Noting that most essential services offered in hospitals, educational institutions, and other public utilities are offered in urban centers, shopping malls, and other designated areas that charge parking fees to access. Acknowledging that whether they are delivered by public or private providers, essential services such as health, banking, education, and other utilities are considered to be public services because they are public goods that sustain the well-being of every citizen and help in the development of the society as a whole. Concerned that access to hospital, educational institutions, and other places offering essential services might be hindered due to exorbitant parking fees levied on motorists accessing these services. Further concerned that charging entry fees amount to double taxation as the motorists who will have paid the parking fees will still pay for the services they seek. Now, therefore, the Senate urges the Cabinet Secretary for Lands, Housing, and Physical Planning, together with the Council of Governors, to come up with a policy framework to create an enabling environment for protection of motorists accessing essential services from paying exorbitant fees for parking. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Asante sana. Hoja ifuatayo.
Order number 7, statement.
Nafikiri maseneta, ukiangalia ratiba ya leo, taarifa ambazo zingefaa kutolewa na Seneta Were na Seneta Musuruve zimeweza kuahirishwa. Kwa hiyo tunaenda arifa ambazo zitatolewa kutokana na kanuni ya 51. Nafikiri Seneta Milgo yupo tayari kuwakilisha kamati. Basi ndakupa fursa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. This is a statement relating to the activities of the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare, pursuant to Standing Order 51-1B for the period from 13th February to 31st October 2020. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 51-1B to make a statement on the activities of the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare for the period commencing 13 February to 31st October 2020. Mr. Speaker, sir, during the period under review, the committee held a total of 55 sittings, considered 2 bills, 6 petitions, and 11 statements. The committee also considered 2 legislative proposals and 2 policy documents. And in respect of the bills, the following were considered. 1, the National Museums and Heritage Amendment Bill 2019, Senate Bill number 7 of 2019. 2, the Persons with Disabilities Amendment Bill 2020, Senate Bill number 15 of 2020. 3, a legislative proposal, the Sign Language Trainers and Interpreters for the Deaf Bill 2020. And 4, the Trapped County Public Service Boards Bill. On the National Museums and Heritage Amendment Bill 2019, Senate Bills number 7 of 2019, the committee resolved that the sponsor should take up the new bill sponsored by the Ministry of Sports, Culture and Heritage, and the committee will table this report on the bill soon. And Mr. Speaker, with regard to the Persons with Disabilities Amendment Bill 2020, Senate Bill number 15 of 2020, the committee has called for written submissions from the public and met the stakeholders today, Tuesday, 3rd November 2020, and the committee will table this report after considering views from the public. Mr. Speaker, the committee also considered a legislative proposal for the sign language trainers and interpreters for the Deaf Bill 2020, and proposed by Senator Dr. Alice Milko and Senator Dr. Gertrude Musuruve, and recommended that the bill be directed to the Standing Committee on Education after publication and first reading. The Trapped County Public Service Boards Bill was also considered during the period under review, and the bill is sponsored by the committee and seeks to provide for a framework within which the county public service boards would operate. The committee is still in the process of considering the bill. Mr. Speaker, sir, regarding statements, pursuant to Standing Order 48-1, 11 statements were referred to the committee. Responses to some of these statements have been received and the matters concluded, but some are still under consideration due to supplementary questions asked by the senators on the statements. The committee will be meeting the Wajir County government on the statements by Senator Faria Ali Haji concerning alleged stalled payments of sitting allowances to members of Wajir Land Tribunal Board on Thursday, 5th November 2020. On the statement by Senator Dr. Ali Abdullahi on non-remittance of employee statutory deductions, non-payment of work injury benefits, and other labor-related violations by the county government, the committee received responses from the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, the Council of Governors and our county government, and shared with the Senator. The committee is also awaiting response from the National Treasury and will be writing to Lab Trust and Lab Fund and some circles to get the actual picture. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee has noted that the non-remittance of statutory deductions, including pensions and SACCO funds, are challenges that afflict all counties and will therefore be engaging the county governments, including the assemblies and the National Treasury, on the matter. The committee is awaiting responses from the National Treasury on the statement sought by Senator Petulina Were Lokorio MP on alleged frustrations faced by retired public servants or their beneficiaries in claiming benefits of the Pensions Department. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee is also awaiting responses for the following statements. Statements sought by Senator Aaron Cheruyot on operations of anti-doping agency of Kenya and the alleged rampant doping test failure by Kenyan athletes. Statements sought by Senator Dr. Catherine Musurube regarding compensation of Mr. Peter Otieno by Sarova Hotels, and statements sought by Senator Fatuba Dulo regarding dismissal of staff by Ewaso Nyiro North Development Authority. Mr. Speaker, with regard to petitions, the committee considered 6 petitions during the period under review, and as I have stated before, labor and social welfare issues are contentious in nature, and even when the report is tabled in the House, the committee still follows up on the matter to monitor progress on the matters. For example, the committee tabled the report on the petition by Kenya Union of Clinical Officers concerning revision by both levels of government to conclude on the collective bargaining agreements negotiations on 11th August 2020, but is still following up with the Public Service Commission and the Ministry of Health to ensure that the clinical officers have a scheme of service. The committee also tabled a report on the petition by Mr. Peter Wambua Mwangangi on the flight of former Machakos County Ward Representative staff on the same date. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee has concluded the following petitions and will be tabling the reports on them. Petition by Senator Susan Kiiga on residents on unlawful rounding up, detention, transfer, and dumping of street children by the county government of Nakuru. Petition by Senator Dr. Michael Mpito on behalf of Kenya Railway staff pensions on the looming collapse of the Kenya Railway staff retirement benefit scheme. The committee has engaged the sponsors and the government institutions on the petition to ensure that the pensioners get their dues. The committee can confidently report that so far the pensioners have been paid 5 out of 12 months arrears. Even after tabling the report, the committee will still be engaging stakeholders to ensure that the arrears are paid in full and the pensioners start receiving timely payments of their pension. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee will be meeting stakeholders on Monday, 9 November 2024 to follow up for a follow-up meeting. The committee also will be tabling an interim report on the following petitions. Petition by Senator Samson Cherarge on a late night payment of salaries by the Nandi County government, and petition by Mr. Lawrence Mutempe on irregular redeployment by county government of Tharaka Nithi. Mr. Speaker, going forward, the committee intends to carry out the following key activities this quarter. 1, publication of the county public service bills. 2, consideration and tabling of the report on the Persons with Disabilities Amendment Bill 2020, Senate Bills number 15 of 2020. C, engage the National Treasury and county government, including the assemblies, on the issue of statutory deductions, pensions, and SACCO payments. 3, and 4, engage the Ministry of Sports, Culture, and Heritage on the Sports, Arts, and Social Development Fund and monitor the progress of implementation of activities funded. And last, deliberate with stakeholders on social safety nets for employees during this pandemic period. I thank you. Thank you.
Asante sana Senator Dr. Alice Milgo kwa kutupatia ratiba ya kamati husika ambayo umekuwa naibu mwenyekiti, na huwa mara nyingi kwamba wewe unakuwa kama mwenyekiti, lakini hujaweka hiyo taarifa rasmi kwenye meza. Kwa hiyo njoo uweze kufanya rasmi. Utaelekezwa hapa na
I table.
Sema kwa kimombo, I beg to table. I now table.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Having read the progress of the Senate Labor and Social Welfare Committee, I now table the report. Thank you.
Asante sana. Unajua wewe ni mama na ukishaandaa chakula lazima ukiweke mezani. Kwa hiyo pia mpaka hiyo report lazima iweke kwenye meza rasmi. Na nichangie tu niseme kwamba tafadhali kamati hiyo iweze kuharakisha huo mswada wa watu wenye ulemavu ambao tumeudhamini pamoja na Seneta Cheruiyot, kwa sababu wizara imeniambia mara mbili na hata leo ulisikia kwamba tuanze kuondoa huu mswada, na kama hilo halitafanyika kabla bunge hili kuweza kumaliza muhula wake itakuwa ni miaka 10, na tulianza huu mchakato mwaka 2007. Kwa hiyo sio haki kwa watu wenye ulemavu. Seneta Musuruve, nafikiri tulikuwa tumeakhirisha taarifa yako. Sijui tutafanyaje kwa sababu nilikuwa nimeshapita. Unataka kuiwasilisha rasmi?
The Honorable Speaker, thank you for giving me an opportunity. Just wanted to commend what the Labour Committee has done, the report concerning the pending bills and all that. And Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the Labour Committee for actually coming in on issues of disability.
Kwa hivyo unataka kuchangia? Sijui kama kunafaa kuwa na kuchangia kweli hapo?
Just a comment, just a brief comment.
Aya, basi ninaelekezwa kwamba inafaa dakika moja tafadhali.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I just want to comment that I truly appreciate on behalf of persons with disabilities what the Labour Committee is doing. I remember when the sign language bill came up, it started in the Labour Committee and Senator Sakaja gave it really strong support until it was published, and it is where it is. And I'm happy also the same committee, the same Labour Committee has taken up the sign language interpretation bill that is before them, and then after publication it will now be there for public hearing. And I want to call upon persons with disabilities from all over to come and enrich the bill so that it becomes law. And Honorable Speaker, just to comment, and you are also someone with a disability, when it comes to persons with disabilities, the ones who go through academia, the most disadvantaged are the deaf, and it's because of the language barrier. So I want to say, Honorable Speaker, this will be a very good bill that will help solve the language problem of the deaf. And I want to thank my fellow legislators, senators, for even supporting persons with disabilities when they come up with bills in this Senate. Thank you very much, my honorable senators, for supporting us always. Thank you for the inclusivity in the Senate. I support.
Asante sana. Ndio sababu lazima kuwe na wabunge, maseneta wanawakilisha watu wenye ulemavu. Sasa hivi nampa fursa mwenyekiti wa kamati ya afya, Seneta Daktari Michael Mbito.
Honorable Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 51(1)B of the Senate Standing Orders to make a statement relating to the activities of the Standing Committee on Health for the period 1st of April 2020 to 6th of October 2020. Honorable Speaker, during the period of review, the committee held 59 sittings, which it considered various legislative proposals, bills, statements, and petitions as set out below. A, legislative proposals. Mr. Honorable Speaker, the committee undertook pre-publication scrutiny of 2 legislative proposals, which were referred to the committee. And these were, 1, the County E-Health Bill 2020, sponsored by Senator Judith Perreno, and secondly, the Health Amendment Bill 2020, sponsored by Senator Dr. Abdullahi Ali. Pursuant to Standing Order 126.1, the committee examined the legislative proposals and invited the respective sponsors during the considerations. Further, pursuant to Standing Order 125.3, the Senate Standing Orders, the committee transmitted its comments to the Honorable Speaker of the Senate on 17th of July 2020 and 6th of August 2020, respectively. Bills. The committee considered 2 bills during the time of review. One, the Reproductive Healthcare Bill, Senate Bill 23 of 2019. Honorable Speaker, the Reproductive Healthcare Bill was sponsored by Senator Susan Kihika, the Senator for Nakuru County, and was published on the 20th of November 2019 and read for the first time on 18th of February 2020. Following this, it was committed to the Standing Committee on Health for consideration and facilitation of public participation in accordance to the Standing Order 141 and 5. The bill passed the second reading on the 9th of June 2020. The bill was subsequently deferred to allow for stakeholder engagement and consultation. The committee successfully concluded the second round of public participation on Monday, 21st of September 2020, having received 213 written submissions from various stakeholders and held a series of stakeholder meetings with more than 45 relevant stakeholder groups. The sponsor of the bill was duly invited to all the stakeholder meetings. The committee has concluded its considerations of the Reproductive Health Bill and has adopted its report thereon for tabling. The second one was the Community Health Services Bill, Senate Bill number 5 of 2020. Honorable Speaker, the Community Health Services Bill was sponsored by Senator Dr. Agnes Zani. It was read for first time in the Senate on the 21st of April 2020. Following this, it was committed to the Standing Committee on Health for consideration and facilitation of public participation in accordance with the standing orders. The committee has concluded its consideration of the Community Health Services Bill and is due to adopt its report and the committee stage amendments thereon for tabling. Statements. Honorable Speaker, the committee has considered 5 senators' requests for statements during the period under review as follows. One was statement by Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. on the scaling up of the UHC program to the 47 county governments. The committee held meetings with stakeholders in relation to the statement, including the Ministry of Health, Council of Governors, KEMSA, and NHIF. It has further received and analyzed 46 intergovernmental participation agreements that were executed between the national and county governments for the scaling up of UHC program. Okay. The other statement was by, Second statement was by Senator Sylvia Kasanga on the operations of the NHIF, on NHIF. The committee held meetings with the CEO of NHIF on 19th of May 2020, at which Senator Sylvia Kasanga was present. Further, in relation to the statement and other discussions that have arisen on the floor of the House, the committee is due to convene the stakeholders forum on the operations and status of reforms at the NHIF. The third statement was by Senator Beth Mugo regarding the death of a patient at MP Shah Hospital, allegedly due to negligence. The committee has concluded its considerations of the statement and has tabled a report thereon for consideration and adoption by the House. The fourth one was a statement by Senator Moses Kajwang on the strike by health workers in Homa Bay County in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. The committee has partially considered the statement, having held an online meeting with the County Governor of Homa Bay, the relevant members of the County Executive, the Health Committee of the County Assembly of Homa Bay, and health worker representatives. The committee has further scheduled a visit to Homa Bay County during in due course. The fifth one was a statement by Senator Millicent Omanga on the state of the Pumwani Hospital This committee partially considered this statement, having visited Pumwani Hospital on 21st of September 2020, held meetings with Nairobi Metropolitan Services on Monday 28th September 2020. The committee is further due to hold a meeting with Nairobi City County in relation to the statement. Further to the above, the committee has sought a statement from the Ministry of Health on the role of non-state actors in the delivery of community health services. In addition, the committee is due to commence its consideration on pending requests of statements from senators as follows. Statement by Senator Petronila Wele regarding the state of affairs at Busia County Referral Hospital. Statement by Senator Michael Mbito on the payment of allowances of office administrative personnel working in the health sector in county governments. On petitions, Mr. Speaker, the committee has prioritized the following petitions for consideration during the fourth session. The first one is a petition on the alleged double taxation of pharmacies in Kenya by Mr. Collins Omolo. The second one is a petition by Senator Isaac Mwaura on the plight of patients with end-stage kidney failure. On inquiries, Honorable Speaker, the committee has commenced 3 inquiries during the period under review. The first one was inquiry on the alleged negligence in the handling of the late Professor Ken Walibora prior to his death at the Kenyatta National Hospital. The committee has concluded this inquiry into the negligence and handling of Professor Ken Walibora and forwarded the report for tabling thereon. Second one is a committee inquiry on the allegations of procurement irregularities in KEMSA. The committee has held hearings with various witnesses and stakeholders in relation to the alleged irregularities in KEMSA. Investigations on the matter are going on. The committee inquiries on the performance on counties in the health function. With regard to the performance of counties in the health function, the committee has held consultative meetings with key stakeholders, including the Office of the Auditor General and the civil society groups led by the International Budget Partnership. In relation to the same, via letter dated 5th of June 2020, a request was sent to the Auditor General for a performance audit on the health functions in 10 specified counties within 3 months as follows: Trans Nzoia, Wajir, Nyamira, Narok, Baringo, Busia, Kisumu, Taita, Makueni, and Murang'a. Key areas of interest to the committee with this regard to the performance of audit included: A, procurement of health products and technologies; B, development projects in the health sector in the selected counties, and utilization of conditional grants from the national government, particularly conditional grants for level 5 hospitals, HSSF, user fees forgone, and the inquiry is ongoing. On county visits, Honorable Speaker, the committee has not undertaken any county visits during the period of review. During the upcoming recess, however, the committee plans to undertake visits to Narok, Kisii, Homa Bay, Kisumu, and Busia. Once the dates of the visits have been firmed up, the senators for the respective counties will be duly notified and invited to join the committee on the visits. To conclude, Honorable Speaker, I wish to thank your office and that of the Clerk of the Senate for the support accorded to the committee in undertaking its work. I also wish to thank the members of the committee, both past and present, for the commitment and diligence in executing the mandate of the committee. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and with those remarks, I wish to table the report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Asante sana. Nafikiri unaweza kuweka waraka rasmi. Sasa hivi tutaenda kwenye hoja ifuatayo. Nafikiri tuna mswada. Ukiangalia ratiba ya shughuli, tuna hoja ya 8. Kwa hiyo Karani.
Order number 8, motion, adoption of the 9th progress report of the ad hoc committee on the COVID-19 situation in Kenya.
Mwenyekiti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the motion that the Senate adopts the 9th progress report of the Ad hoc Committee on COVID-19 situation in Kenya, laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 29th September 2020. Mr. Speaker, 29th September is a long time ago. Time has passed. So I'll try and summarize as much as possible because a lot of these issues have been overtaken. And Mr. Speaker, as you know, the mandate of the committee is coming to an end and we are actually now working on our final report. So I think this is for good order that at least we get the Hansard report that we have done up to this part. The 9th progress report came about the 6-month point since when the committee was set up back in March, 31st March of 2020. The 9th progress report of the Ad hoc Committee situation details the engagements that the committee undertook just after tabling the 8th progress report. And the first is that it continued to hold engagements with national and county governments on the COVID-19 response and mitigation measures that had been put in place by the 2 levels of government. So we held a meeting with the CAS of Ministry of Health, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi, on Wednesday, 9th September 2020, during which we received detailed reports on the status of COVID-19 response at national level and how funds allocated to the national government allocated by the national government towards COVID-19 response and mitigation had been utilized, and the status of implementation of the Senate resolutions of the 3rd progress report. Mr. Speaker, we were doing our 2nd round of engagements, and so we were receiving now the progress from where we had stopped. Whatever recommendations we had given in our 3rd progress report, the CAS brought a report on that as well. The ministry also tabled committee documents on the funds that had been committed to by the national government and received from development partners in support of the fight against COVID-19. And a detailed breakdown of those funds was tabled, and the ministry reported that 9th September 2020, it had received a total of 23.4 billion Kenya shillings, comprising 17.7 billion from government revenue, and 6.7 billion from external funding. The report further indicated that a total of 9.2 billion had been disbursed to the counties, and it was disbursed in this manner. Mr. Speaker, it was disbursed 5 billion as conditional grant for COVID-19 emergency response, 2.36 billion as emergency allowances for frontline workers for 3 months, and those were allowances for frontline workers for 3 months, 350 million Kenya shillings from Danida. These were grants to level 2 and level 3 public hospitals, and 1.5 billion emergency response support for the 4 county hospitals. I think these are level 4s, sorry. The report from the Ministry of Health also detailed in Chapter 2 of this report, and all the annexures are there for senators to be able to peruse and see. The Ministry of Health, having engaged with the county governments and other stakeholders on health-related aspects of the pandemics, basically this fell under thematic area 1 of how we had organized ourselves as a committee. And it is my duty right now to just inform the House that now this mandate has been officially handed back to the Standing Committee on Health, and we shall be formally transmitting all the documents and reports and the areas that are outstanding for the committee to be able to follow up in our final exit report. So we shall be looking forward now to hearing updates from the Health Committee on matters to do with COVID-19. So we are happy to have reached this point, Mr. Speaker. In July 2020, the committee directed the Controller of Budget to submit to the committee a special budget review implementation report on utilization of funds by county governments towards COVID-19 interventions, covering the period of March 2020, when the first COVID case was recorded, through to 31st July 2020. And the Controller of Budget undertook the review and submitted the report. The report provides an analysis of the county's cumulative funds and expenditure on COVID-19, clustered as funding from the national government, grants from development partners, and counties' own contributions. So in summary, the total funds that were available based on the Controller of Budget report was 13.1 billion Kenya shillings, which consisted of 5 billion from the national government as reported by Ministry of Health, 2.36 billion from national government through Ministry of Health allowances for frontline healthcare workers, and 350 million from DANIDA as grant support for level 2 and level 3. There was a total of 5.3 billion, which was actually county on-source funds, which they had raised in their own manner. The total expenditure by county governments during the period was reported to be 3.43 billion, which translated to an absorption rate of only 33.2% at that time. Counties that reported the highest expenditure included Nakuru at 311 million, Wajir at 255 million, Kiambu at 245 million. 7 counties, namely Bomet, Embu, Kirinyaga, Lamu, Mandera, Marsabit, Nairobi County, did not report any expenditure towards COVID-19 interventions. The national government grants of 5 billion Kenya shillings were transferred to the various county revenue fund accounts on the 4th of June 2020 through the Ministry of Health. And counties received 2.36 billion on 6th July 2020 from the National Government Ministry of Health, being allowances from the frontline workers. And 350 million from DANIDA was received by the counties on the 30th of June for COVID interventions. And the timing of these funds release was too close to the financial year, to the end of the financial year 2019-2020, and some county governments did not prepare budgets for utilization of the grant from the national government. That's why we had a low absorption. Consequently, several county governments could not withdraw the funds, and they remained unutilized as at 31st July 2020. So when the first COVID case in Kenya was reported, there was no clear guideline from national government on the role of counties in the management and response of COVID cases. Although several county governments allocated funds within their budgets to fight the pandemic, they were unable to utilize all the funds due to the lack of the guidelines. So the guidelines and expectations from county governments were issued towards the end of May 2020. So you can see the reason why the low absorption. County governments have since put in place arrangements for conducting internal audits in line with Section 155 of Public Finance Act 2012. As at 31st July 2020, county governments reported actual expenditures of 3.43 billion towards the COVID intervention programs, compared to the available resource, which was 13.1 billion. So, Mr. Speaker, the Special Budget Review Implementation Report contained detailed reports on utilization of the funds by each county government towards the COVID-19 interventions, and a summary of this is contained in Chapter 3 of this report for the senators to be able to follow. The committee further directed the Auditor General to undertake a special audit report on utilization of funds within the 47 county governments. This was to cover the period of 13th March through to July 2020. So we had a whole raft of requests which are highlighted on the report. Now, while the committee had asked the Auditor General to submit the report by 4th of September, the Auditor General requested for more time to complete this exercise. And unfortunately, we are coming to the end of our mandate without having received the Auditor General's reports from the counties, in which case we shall specify the committee that will then receive, analyze, and advise on the way forward. Now, Mr. Speaker, we also undertook visits to Mombasa, Kilifi, and Kwale counties. We have spoken severally on these issues, where we met with the several county governments, with their county commissioners and the whole response teams, as well as healthcare workers. We met with healthcare workers. We also met with civil society organizations and other private sector who had joined in the fight against COVID in these counties. We identified key successes in the counties, which we have highlighted severally here in Senate and in other platforms, where we saw a collaboration of various stakeholders come together with county governments to fight. And we also had key observations where we saw local innovations not being supported by national government, and we gave a recommendation that national government needs to protect local inventions and also support them as a way of localizing our own methodologies of fighting pandemic now and in future. We noted a lot of labor-related issues where our frontline workers are not very well catered for when it comes to PPEs, when it comes to delayed salaries, which have in some counties had spanned for months, remittance of their statutory deductions and other financial obligations, lack of NHIF, and all these things we have tried to deal with them in the committee, and we shall be forwarding them again to the Labour Committee, the Standing Committee on Labour, to follow up on these issues. We were also not happy to hear that a lot of the county governments are not giving other incentives other than what had been sent by the national government. Very few counties have actually put in place mechanisms for, to help the frontline workers and motivate them as well, especially the motivation is lacking. A lot of support is still needed from national government to the county governments when it comes to qualified healthcare workers for ICU and other related, more specific and specified trades. So all this is here in this report for senators to see and to also follow, and a few more will come in the next report. Committee continue to engage with the the Council of Governors, and we have received detailed reports from county governments on the status of COVID-19 in the counties, including reports on how funds have been allocated.
Samahani mwenyekiti, unaona kama utachukua muda upi kumalizia?
I'll finish in the next 2 minutes,
So.
Mr. Speaker. It's difficult to change Kiswahili, English, Kiswahili. The brain takes a bit of time. But in the next 2 minutes, I finish. So, Mr. Speaker, we have these reports from the county governments. Again, we shall hand them over to the standing committee that is relevant to analyze them and also report to this House accordingly. The lack of public participation is a key issue that we have come across as we have been doing our work. And this, again, is something we will have to forward to the standing committee that is relevant, because we have seen a lot of intervention measures done by the national government without, even involving Parliament, starting from regulations and certain kind of intervention measures that have happened all throughout this period of COVID. We shall be asking the Justice Legal Affairs Human Rights Committee, as well as the Delegated Legislation Committee, standing committees, to pick up on some of these things that are really glaring and outstanding for lack of public participation and stakeholder engagement, and especially with Parliament. So, Parliament was left out in the entire national response team, and we've had to keep chasing after the response team just to get answers and to coordinate with what people are talking and feeling on the ground. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, well, we are happy today's communication from the Speaker talks about at least a way forward. So our pandemic response and management bill will hopefully see the light of day once the Speaker has given us further communication after today. So we are really looking forward to that, because a lot of work had gone into it. And then, of course, without forgetting, we want to thank the Office of the Speaker and the Clerk for all the support we have received. And all other issues that we have, we shall put them in our exit report, and especially our challenges as an ad hoc committee. Mr. Speaker, we had a lot of challenges. We'll put them there. And also to just encourage Speaker and members, as today's Speaker's communication, that COVID is still on the rise and that we need to be even more vigilant now than before. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move, and I call Senator Dr. Mbito to second. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my chair for that thorough report, and due to constraint of time, I will just want to speak on two issues. One, in our inquiry as a committee, it was very unfortunate that we found very different type of preparedness by counties. We found some counties had good preparedness, some counties were below par. This was a very serious thing, and which has actually contributed to all these issues we are seeing of the second surge. The second very urgent matter that needs to be addressed is the issue of the COVID regulations by the MOH. We have been requested we have really ignored the regulations given to us by the MOH. As leaders, we should ensure that some of these things are enforced, especially to do with the social distancing and wearing of masks. Those are mandatory. And with this second upsurge coming in,
we will end up losing a lot of people if we don't take this matter seriously. So I call upon leaders to be on the forefront to ensure that we follow the regulations that we have put ourselves. So with those few remarks, I beg to second the motion. Thank you.
Asante. Nataka sasa kutoa kauli rasmi kwamba Bunge la Seneti liweze kupasisha ripoti ya 9 ya kamati ya muda kuhusu janga la COVID-19 kuhusu hali ilivyo hapa Kenya, ambayo waraka wake umewekwa rasmi kwenye meza ya Bunge la Seneti leo Jumanne tarehe ambayo imewekwa rasmi, waraka huu umewekwa rasmi Jumanne tarehe 29 Septemba mwaka wa 2020. Sijui kama kuna yote angependa kuchangia. Rafiki yangu Seneta Gertrude Musruwe, una muda mchache tu, nafikiri dakika 2 ama 3.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Just to comment on the report from the other committee, I want to say that COVID is real, and since it is real, Honorable Speaker, we must ensure...
Senator Milgo, tafadhali usiondoke. Unaona vile ambavyo chumba kipo. Ngoja kidogo tunamalizia, tafadhali.
And Honorable, thank you. Some of my minutes have been taken. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I want to say that even as you're saying that COVID is real, we must know the reality on the ground that even when our learners are going back to school, very few of them have masks, Honorable Speaker. I was at one point in the county and I visited some schools, and I realized, Honorable Speaker, that there are some students who come from low economically endowed families, and they're not able to afford masks, and some of them were even using handkerchiefs, Honorable Speaker. There's need for us to see how to protect our children in schools, Honorable Speaker, because in as much as we're saying that COVID is real, we need to do something as a government, as county governments, and by the way, a lot of money is going to the counties, Honorable Speaker, and even if it's going to the counties, they're not prioritizing issues of prevention of COVID. And like the county where I come from in Kakamega, we're actually mourning some big county heads who have died because of COVID. I know that CEC, Kakamega County, has passed on. That is Sumba. May his soul rest in peace, and I condole with his family. And apart from Sumba, we also have, a woman who was vying for governor position. She has also succumbed, Honorable Speaker, and even a doctor has succumbed. So I want to say that COVID is real, but we must ensure that even when our children are in school, they are actually prevented from getting COVID. Masks are cheap, but when you look at the money going to the counties, it is enormous. But just a mask of 10 shillings, 30 shillings, 50 shillings, the county government is not able to afford to schools. The government is not able to afford to school. It is really a sorrow state, Honorable Speaker, because if one learner gets COVID, it means the entire class will get COVID, teachers will get COVID and all that. So, Honorable Speaker, we must ensure that we are walking our talk. In as much as the COVID committee is saying that it has done its job, its job is not complete, Honorable Speaker, because a lot of these cases are on the rise, and the Ministry of Education also affirmed that the COVID is on the rise, but schools will not close. So there's need for us as a country to see how then can we protect our children, because if our children are not protected, Honorable Speaker, then it means that we are compromising with the future leaders of this country. But we have to see how to protect the future leaders of this country, because it is our responsibility to do that, Honorable Speaker. It will be very unfortunate that we want to give a baton to leaders who are not there, they succumbed because of COVID. So there's need for us to do something as a country, Honorable Speaker. And my plea and my clarion call to all leaders, to all county governments, can you provide masks to our children? Can you provide sanitizers to schools? Can you provide water to schools? Because these are issues, these are things that are actually lacking. And Honorable Speaker, even about 5 schools that I visited in Kakamega County, I saw that there was no water, Honorable Honorable Speaker. And sometimes even when you reach out to the county governments, they will not be so fast in ensuring there's water. And yet water is a devolved function, Honorable Speaker. So I'm calling upon all governors to ensure that there's water in schools. Wherever you are, whichever governor you are, in whichever county, ensure that there's water in schools. That is how we can walk the COVID talk. Ensure that even in the county budgets, there's an emergency fund that is there to provide masks to learners, and especially in Mashinani, Honorable Speaker, when you look at parents in Mashinani, they are really working hard in order to put food on the table. And you find that they are not able to put food on the table. So when you tell them to buy masks, when you tell them to buy sanitizers, when you tell them to buy soaps and all that, it is not possible for them to do that. So, Honorable Speaker, we must bring governors to account to ensure that they are doing what they need to do, because when it comes to water, it is a devolved function. There is no compromise, and we should not compromise as a Senate. In fact, the concerned committee should ensure that they are calling governors to ask them, do you have water in your counties? And then we need also to have a database of schools that don't have water in the schools, because we cannot put our children, and the children of these Kenya's lives at stake, Honorable Speaker. We have a duty as a Senate, because our county governments are under our docket, and we have to ensure that we are doing something as a Senate, Honorable Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Senator Musuruve, Ms. Reeves. Una dakika 15 wakati tutakaporejelea kikao hiki. Waheshimiwa watadhimiwa maseneta, sasa hivi ni saa 12:30 wakati wa kusitisha shughuli za bunge hili la Seneti. Kikao hiki sasa hivi kimeahirishwa mpaka kesho Jumatano tarehe 4 Novemba mwaka wa 2020 saa 8:30.